Hi, Lisa. I'm so glad that you are here to talk about something that I think is so important. It's so important for basically for the greater good, the health of our kids, and how that will improve and enhance our society just by having a healthier base of people coming through the ages. And what the thing is I was not able to do this when I was teaching, and I wanted to talk about health and nutrition a lot, but I did not have room in my science curriculum to be able to do that with regard to the state standards and that kind of thing. So you are doing this in kind of a unique way. And so what I want you to do is talk to us about this. And then I know you have some phenomenal summit coming up to help people help their kids. So why don't you let us know what's going on?
Thanks for having me, Tiffany. The kids are our future. And it sounds so cliche because we've heard this before. But in the health and wellness space, I feel like we're missing the mark when it comes to our kids. We're having a lot of conversations now about reversing ailments, reversing type 2 diabetes and Hashimoto's and autoimmune issues. And there's all these protocols. We have an autoimmune protocol, but yet we're not talking to the kids about preventing these.
Right.
So while all of us middle-aged people are having conversations about reversing our ailments, which I did, we're not talking to the kids about preventing them. And so I think this program that I have with Freedom Kitchen Kids is what I needed growing up. I needed a program that taught me how to create healthy swaps, not diet, not just eliminate or remove things. We don't want to talk to them about like, you can never have. No, it's not about that. It's about the healthy swaps. How can we make things healthier? And what is real food? Because we have just lost sight as a society of what is real food. If we're watching TV or commercials, we have a misconception about what is food. An edible product is not food. And who's having this conversation with the kids? I mean, if someone's having this conversation, I'd like to meet them because we need more of us having this conversation. And this goes beyond the food pyramid, Tiffany. I mean, you were a teacher, so you saw what was taught with the food pyramid. All we have to do is look around. The food pyramid is clearly not working.
No, it is not. And actually, the food pyramids and the My Plates and all that kind of stuff, it is basically how many dollars were thrown at it to make your brand of food or whatever on the best part of the pyramid, so makes it look like it's not demonized and it's not an evil thing. So it's just it's all political. It's so political, and it doesn't actually have our health and wellness as the forefront of making those diagnoses. So for making those choices so that we don't end up with all these diagnoses. They don't really care about that. That is not why that's created. So if anybody is thinking that the food pyramids or My Plates or whatever, I think it's My Plate right now. If people are thinking that they're doing that to keep us healthy and they're so worried about our health, they are wrong. So it is up to parents and people like you to educate our kids so that they know that, we need to start with real foods. And like you said, not edible products that we see on the grocery shelves or at the checkout lines that are at eye level with those little people who are going to be really drawn to the colors and the characters and everything else. So how do you do that? What is the way that you get that information across to kids?
Well, interestingly, it's cooking classes. And when I was first approached about teaching cooking classes to kids, I said, absolutely not. I'm not a teacher. Unlike you, I have no history or background in teaching. And I really felt like many parents were asking me because they wanted an activity for their kids. And I said, I'm not a daycare provider. Like, I don't want to teach an activity. But the first class I taught, Tiffany, I had a little girl, her name was Riley, and her mom came up and said, you're the answer to our prayers. Riley was diagnosed with celiac, and they were doing their best to go gluten-free in their house. And she said, she's going to have to learn. And Riley was maybe 6.
Okay.
She said, she's going to have to learn how to cook for herself. She's not going to be able to trust other people to cook for her. And she's going to have to learn how to become discerning to know what she can and can't eat. And I thought, but that's true for all children. They need to be discerning about what works for them and what doesn't. They have to learn how to cook for themselves. They have to learn how to become self-sufficient. Isn't this what we raise our kids for? To be personally responsible and self-sufficient? Or do we think that we're going to feather their nest forever?
Right.
You know, so what are we teaching our kids? We're teaching them just go out to eat, just go through a drive-through, just pick something up at the store. Are we teaching our kids to read boxes? So that was a poignant moment for me. First of all, I wept because I was gluten intolerant, lactose intolerant, had the allergy salute. And my parents didn't figure it out, right? And so we do the best with what we have, but that led to chronic inflammation for me and then a lot of other issues. And I think, well, I needed this class when I was Riley's age. So that was life-changing for me to know that I was making a difference in the life of a child and in the life of a whole family. Mm-hmm. And then realizing all families need this.
Yes. Yeah, you don't have to be diagnosed with something like celiac to know that, you know, it's a super important. But I think that's something I hear often is, you know, we as adults, a lot of times we buy foods or think we need to eat differently for ourselves. And we still keep, you know, maybe the junk around because, oh, well, they're young, their bodies can handle it, you know, because they're mostly thinking or referencing the fact that they maybe can metabolize it better and not gain weight from it because they're kids. When in fact, all that does is over time just totally, of course, messes with their metabolism and keeps them, or eventually gets them unhealthy, you know, if this is just normalized. So I think we have to understand that just because they're kids and they maybe can handle things like that metabolically right now, it's setting them up for failure down the road in the sense of not being healthy and having to undo things in middle age versus, you know, being healthy until you get to middle age and then staying healthy past that if you know what you're doing. So I love that you are able to teach these cooking classes. And I know when we've talked before, I can't imagine kids just not loving that. And the fact that they start to be empowered and kind of take over and help out their families. I mean, can you touch on that a little bit about what you've seen with kids and families?
Yeah, I actually watch the dynamics of a family change. This is the beautiful thing to me, is that the kids become empowered and they become personally responsible and they're proud of that. They take pride. They're not looking then for someone to cook for them or take care of them. They actually want to cook for their family. So I hear from mom and dad all the time, like, oh, she cooks 3 days a week. You know, he gets up and makes me breakfast in bed. On the weekends, he cooks his own food. I told her I was busy, you know, I would make dinner when I got done working, but she said, well, I'll just get dinner started. And my child just went in the kitchen and started dinner. This is the gift, Tiffany. I mean, isn't this what we want for our kids? Don't we want our kids to be empowered and self-sufficient? Don't we want them to grow up to be personally responsible? Yet we're not teaching them a basic survival skill. And that is, what is food, how to source it, and how to cook it.
Yes. Yeah, it's ideal. And I tell you, as a parent, and I probably started out with my kids eating sort of like standard American type of stuff, you know, starting before I knew differently and did differently. And they're still by no means, you know, perfect, quote unquote, with all the choices. But what I do see as a win, and I've said this with other people that I've interviewed and talking about nutrition with kids, is to me, it's a win when, for example, we were building a house and had to live in just temporary housing we were in a place for like a week at hotels and stuff. So we were eating out a lot. And it was 1 week. And the fact that both of my kids were so sick of it, even if you're making better choices when you're at restaurants or whatever, it wasn't fast food stuff or anything like that. It was actual restaurants, sit down restaurants. And they were tired of it. They were sick of it. They didn't feel good. They could feel the difference from when we were cooking at home in our own place. And to me, that was a win, that they felt icky with it, with all the stuff that we were eating out for. And it was just a week, but they know the difference. And so when they are eating healthy, preparing their own food, cooking for their families, and then they are away from it and they have that contrast, that can keep them sort of propelling in that same forward. They're not going to lose that habit, and they're going to feel the difference of eating well versus not eating well. And then I always say that when people can connect the dots to how certain things make their bodies feel, they're just going to keep making the better choices when they have the control to do that. So I think that this is a lifelong lesson, just as important as so many other things we want to teach our kids.
Yeah, if you ask any parent what they want for their child, I think they'll say, I just want my child to be happy.
Yeah.
I just want them to be happy. And under that, I think there's an assumption that they'll always be healthy.
Right.
So if you were to say, do you want them to be happy or healthy? They would be like, well, I want them to be healthy so they can be happy.
Yeah, exactly.
And so if we want our kids to be healthy and happy, and I really do think it boils down to just that. If we want our kids to be healthy and happy, then this is where it starts, because what we put in our body is what's creating our cells, and it's what's helping with not only our physical state, but our mental and emotional state, because we know that it has an effect on mental health as well. And we're seeing an epidemic with kids. And that's what's breaking my heart, is we're seeing so many kids with anxiety and depression. And that is the food, Tiffany. I just can't say it enough. And I know I'm preaching to the choir with you, but many people don't see the correlation between the processed edible products that I hesitate to ever call food. They don't see that correlation with the mental health. And I believe that our future is dependent on our kids being healthier. So I always tell people, if you can't do this for the kids, which most people can see the value for the kids, but we need to do it for ourselves, because we need to think in 20 years from now, they're the leaders, they're the world leaders, they're making the decisions, they're the teachers, they're the police officers, they're the mayor of the city. And so if they don't have good health and they don't have good mental health, and so I'm talking like 1 in 6 on the autistic spectrum, 6.1 million kids with ADD, ADHD, 60% of those on Ritalin or some type of stimulant, which is a gateway drug to other drugs. Sugar, which is a gateway drug to other drugs, because we're talking about dopamine, we're talking about, lighting up the pleasure centers of the brain. So now you get them hooked on sugar, you get them on stimulants, they're on Ritalin. And then what does that lead to? We really have to look at the trajectory we're on. And so, in 20 years from now, this could be a complete disaster. And so while I love doing this to empower the kids, I also know that it's almost a civic duty for us now to start teaching the kids this information so that we can reverse the trajectory of dis-ease that we're seeing.
Yes, and to your point about the different conditions we're seeing in kids, and it's starting, I taught high school, so at least, for the most part, I taught high school, so at least for the most part, like 10th grade and up. So, we're talking 15, 16 and up. And I even saw it in younger kids, but I think all of this chronic dis-ease and these mental health conditions are starting really, really young, really, really young. I have been in K through 12 schools where I've seen, of course, everybody in these little tiny schools and stuff. And I've seen 3rd graders that are taking lithium because of severe mental health issues, all the while eating processed, packaged, edible products like we were talking about. I don't want to call them foods even, but this is what I'd see when my kids would come in from, say, lunch at the high school. And, in the classroom door, there'd be like the solid door, and then on the side, there's a side light window, the length of the door. And, if the door was locked or whatever, sometimes that would happen. I'd forget to unlock it, and kids would be coming into class and the door would be shut, and I'd see someone in the window looking to come in, and I didn't even hear them, but I could see them and how they were acting. And I could see that they either didn't get their medication that day, or what are they going to come into my room with? What kind of foods have they been eating all day? And sure enough, they come in and have eaten, the donuts that are wrapped in a little tube in plastic. Like, I think the chocolate coating on the on the donut is actually plastic. I don't know. It just like looks terrible, but this is what they've been eating all day. Plus they are probably on Ritalin or something else for attention deficit hyperactivity. And you could see that on them, and it causes so much stress, because now as a classroom teacher, trying to teach at the time, I was like trying to teach 40 kids and doing science labs with them. I have to keep kids safe. I have to keep them organized. They have to do whatever. And now this kid is so stressed out because they're driving everybody around them nuts, and they know it, whether they actually try to curtail the behavior or not. You know, it's really stressful and really, really hard on the kids. But I would see the food aspect all the time. And this was foods they were getting at the school. I mean, oftentimes it would come from home, but they could go down and get some of the stuff at the school, not just in a vending machine, but at the actual little stores that they had for breakfast or snacks, or the snack shack or whatever it was. And this was accessible to them, and they could put it on their meal account. You know, they didn't even need cash for it. So I just was, how do I do this? But again, I didn't have time in my curriculum. I wasn't the foods teacher. I wasn't the health teacher. I was the biology or the anatomy phys teacher. So having someone like you going into different groups of kids, you know, learning about this is absolutely paramount to success for, I mean, like you said, it kind of sounds a little cliche, but the kids are our future, and it is what it is. We need to optimize these kids' health, and by teaching them, and our society does no favors of that, you know, with teaching our kids about real health and nutrition. So
yeah, I'll say, first of all, this is a judgment-free zone. I raised my kids on fast food. I was,
yes,
I worked in information technology. And so I tell the parents when they come in, I'm not going to tell you you're doing it wrong. I'm not going to tell your child is never going to come home telling you you're doing it wrong.
yeah,
We're going to talk about swaps, and we're going to talk about healthy options. And I make it my job to teach them, to broaden their horizons and teach them options. Because if you're going to empower someone, again, you don't tell them, do it this way.
right.
You say, these are your options. And so I am teaching, and the kids have come to me, and I've had high schoolers who have said, in all of my years, so I teach a homeschool, a virtual program. It's through the school district, and these are the families who choose the virtual. We have an Oxford Virtual Academy. And they'll say, of all the programs I've done all the years, this is the best one, and you're the best teacher. And so I've asked a lot of questions, like, why would you say that? And they say, because you don't tell us how to do things, you tell us why, and you show us different ways. That was the best compliment I could have gotten from, you know, a high schooler, to witness what I am actually doing is empowering them.
Yes.
So I always say, I'm not saying that the best thing or the only thing for you to use is almond flour or coconut flour or milled flax seeds. I'm showing you have all these options.
Right.
And then I teach them to discern what is best for them. And I say, no, this one's higher in fiber. This one's higher in protein. This one's, you know, great with, you know, omegas and healthy fats. And you can use them all, find which ones you like. And there might come a time when they might not have access to something. We're going to see more supply chain issues, I'm sure. We are seeing empty shelves in the grocery stores. If you go to the grocery store and the wheat flour is gone and you don't know how to use anything else, you're going to be in a world of hurt. But if you know how to use a number of other flours, or you know how to make your own flour, because in my classes, the kids know that any nut, seed, or grain can be ground into a powder and used as a flour, and they can put it in the food processor. So we make oat flour, we make almond flour in class.
Yep.
So this is resourcefulness. Isn't this what we want for our kids? I mean, I don't really know what's happening in our country and where things are going to go, but I sure want any kids that I'm around to be resourceful and know that they have other options. And truly, I think there's a lot of adults who need to know that they have other options so they don't freak out. I mean, I think people were fighting during quarantine over bags of flour. My grocery store looked like Armageddon. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure there was a war in the flour aisle.
Yes. And I mean, I've worked with people, adults, where, you know, we talk about different foods and I send different recipes or whatever, and they're not really adept at things other than, you know, the common wheat flours or, you know, very common foods. And I know like sometimes when I'm at the checkout lane at the grocery store and I'll have some fennel or something in my little cart, and the checkout person's like, what is this? What is this? Can you help me ring you up? So because if the little sticker is not on it or whatever. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Not everybody has this information. So what I feel super excited to be a part of is something you're doing called the Freedom Kitchen Summit coming up. And I think that this, I'm just so glad that we connected, because this is so important. We've already talked about all the reasons why it's so important, but can you give us a little rundown of what this summit is about? And then we can put the links to it for people to be able to access it, because it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, so we're going to start with a 4-part docu-series that's going to lead into a full 4-day summit. And what I did is I found other experts like yourself, so that it's not just me telling people that they need to eat healthier or what is real food. We brought in different experts with different perspectives. So we have teachers like yourself. We also have doctors. We have a farmer. We have someone who runs a CSA. So we're looking at every aspect of the food system and what is real food, where can I get real food, how do I teach my kids how to eat real food, what is the mental components. So we have a transpersonal psychologist on the summit as well. So we're bringing a lot of perspectives to give someone a very well-rounded perspective of what is real food, what is true health, and how do I get there? So we put together this 4-part docu-series, which are nice, short, it's video clips from all of us, but it's also some of my students. So my students are actually talking to parents and to families about the importance of cooking, either the joy they get from cooking or what they've learned or why they think others should learn. I did not script these. I asked any of my students who wanted to come in, I said, I'm going to shoot some videos. If anyone wants to come in and help Miss Lisa, we're going to create an educational series that we're going to share with other doctors and health coaches and with parents everywhere. And it was over Christmas break. I got a handful of them to all say, yes, I want to come in. I have this boy he's so sweet. And he says, I said, why do you think that people need to learn how to cook, Mac? And he said, I want to break the stereotype. His words, not mine. He said, I want to break the stereotype that boys don't cook. And he said, the football team all made fun of me for wanting to cook. He said, but I like to cook and I like to eat good food. And he said, they just all eat junk and I don't want to eat that junk. And he said, and I think more boys need to learn how to cook. And these were his words. This is coming out of a middle schooler. And so I thought this is what the world needs to hear, is that
that's incredible.
How many parents say, my kid won't cook, my kid's lazy, my kid this, they won't change the way they eat.
Yeah.
We don't know that really until they're empowered.
Right.
And that's all we do, is we offer this. We enroll them in the process. They learn, they take pride. They're like, wow, I did that. See, we look at cooking as a chore. They look at it as a creative endeavor.
Right. Yes. Yes. They're in the moment with it.
Yes. So that's what the summit is, to bring together experts. The docu-series is, it's a combination of education and integration, right? So, we have to take the information and assimilate it. So we have about 10 to 12 cooking segments. And then we've got about 4 different activity segments. So at the end of each day of the summit, there's a meditation, there's a heart math session, there's a painting session. These are so that we can relax and integrate everything that we've learned. This is going to be a great summit for someone to add to their library. If they want to get in the kitchen with their kids, we're going to have a number of cooking segments. And I think the kids should listen to all of us experts. Mm-hmm. I think the kids are capable of hearing what we're talking about so that they can make their own decisions and their own choices.
Yes, it's just sounds amazing. And I think when other kids see all these kids talking about this and having that goal, like breaking the stereotype, I think that this will have far reaching, really positive effect on everybody, and also for parents to see how, letting their kids dig in and roll up their sleeves and get in the kitchen, it actually might lighten the parents' load a little bit if kids start taking over, but it just will be so empowering to them. And basically it all boils down to the basic idea that they're going to keep their health in check by doing so. We're going to be doing a good part in keeping them healthy by learning this skill at such a young age. So that's amazing. I'm excited for it. And in the show notes, we'll put that it's thefreedomkitchensummit.com, so people can access it via that way. Is that right? Or yes. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to touch on before we sign off here, or any other things to access from you? Or
so I would just say that our freedom, personal sovereignty starts with personal responsibility. And our freedom as a country and really globally begins in the kitchen. And that might be oversimplifying. Some people may view that as oversimplifying, but know that my mission and my purpose is freedom. Mm-hmm. And that starts with personal freedoms, your freedom, your child's freedom, and then all of our collective freedoms. So when I have looked at this from a corporate perspective, from a financial perspective, and also from a health perspective, our lack of health limits our freedom. And so we have to look at the corporations that are in place, the corporations that are controlling the food, the corporations that are controlling agriculture, and the corporations that are controlling the drugs, the pharmaceuticals, and the medical industry, and how those are all related. And so I encourage people to go all the way up to the top to see how they're interconnected. And so this personal choice of what we eat is actually our first step every single day, because we make a decision to eat every single day.
Right.
So every single day you're making a choice for your freedom. And so I'm not going to tell you at this point to go get a farm or to grow a garden, although we're going to plant those seeds in this summit, and it is something you may want to consider. So yes, we're going to plant seeds, pun intended. Mm-hmm. But it starts at least with helping kids and people to identify what is real food, where did it come from, and then how can I be a source of that food as well. So I'll just leave people on that note that Freedom Kitchen has a much bigger dream or vision about setting everyone free.
Yeah, I love that. And I just think you stated it very well, because it really does start with that personal choice, and how it trickles all the way up or all the way down, whatever way you want to look at it. And I think it's so important. So this is a small step people can take that has big, it can make big changes. And I don't know, I love what you're doing. So thank you for coming on here and sharing that with us. And I'll put that link in the show notes. So people, please access it. If not for you, for your kids, share it with everybody, and to make sure that people are getting this information. It's super important. So thank you so much for being here, Lisa.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Bye.